Come back home. Jesus still loves you. That's the theme of our devotion today. Let's open our Bibles to the book of Luke chapter 15 from verse 11. Come back home. Jesus still loves you. Jesus continued, there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and then squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. So there were 2 sons. One of them, the younger one, was always having his eyes on the property. He was always imagining for the opportunity to go to a far country and spend the money he will get from the possession. And he gathered the boldness and went to the father. The father was still alive, and said, Father, divide the estate, give my own part. He did not want to wait for the day that his father would die. And the father was such a loving father. He divided the possession, he divided the estate, and gave the boy his own. And the Bible says the boy sold everything and went to a far away country. Then he spent his possession, he spent all that he had in wild living. He moved from one place to the other, spent his life with prostitute, and after a time, everything got finished. Your possession, what you have, will get finished. He never valued his relationship with the father. He was always thinking about the possession. He valued property more than his father. The father who had labored to amass such wealth. He told his father, I have waited for long and you are not dying. Give my own possession. I don't want to wait until when you die. I want to use it now. And he went and squandered everything. And the Bible says, after that, there was famine. There was problem in that country, and he began to be in need. He had used everything. The things you have will get finished. There is only one thing that cannot get finished. It's your relationship with your father. Your relationship with your father can never get finished. It becomes deeper and deeper and deeper every day. Possession will get finished, except one thing: your relationship with God. Are you deepening that relationship with God, or your eyes are on the estate and you want to go to far away country and squander your goods, squander your possession? And the Bible says there was famine, and then he went and hired himself. He came from a wealthy background. The father had everything. He went and hired himself to someone and started taking care of pigs. And then he desired to eat even what pigs were eating, but no one will give him. That is what it means when you abandon God for the sake of pleasure. When you abandon God in order to begin to say you want to live, you want to have wild living, it will never profit you. Verse 17, when he came to his senses, in other words, he had lost his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, I have sinned against heaven and I have sinned against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he got up and went to his father. He came to his senses. Have you come to your senses? Have you come to that point that you know it is total foolishness to abandon God? It is total foolishness to abandon your relationship with God for the sake of pleasure, for the sake of wealth. He came to his senses. May you come to your senses today and tell yourself, my true treasure is my relationship with God. He came to his senses. I pray that you come to your senses. And he told himself, I am going to rise up and go to my father. And I will tell my father, I have sinned against you. You must come to that point that you confront the fact that by abandoning the father for the sake of possession, for the sake of pleasure, for the sake of sin, you were behaving like someone who had lost your mind. He rose up and he decided he would go to his father. He did not only take the decision, he rose up and set out to go to his father. But let's see what happened when he set out. He got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him and ran to his son and threw his arm around his son and kissed his son. That is exactly what God is waiting to do to you. When you get up from your backsliding, from your rebellion, from your sinful ways, and tell yourself, I will go to my father. What have you profited? What have you gained by living the wild type of life you are living? It profits you nothing. It profits you nothing. Rise and go to your father and tell God, I have sinned against heaven. I have sinned against you. I'm not even worthy to be called your son again. But God will tell you, you are worthy. I have been waiting for you. God is compassionate and waiting for you to come back to him. And the father ran. The father threw his arm around him. The father kissed him. And the father did something. But the father said to him, to the servant, quick, bring the best robe and put on him, and put a ring on his finger, and put sandals on his feet. He came back almost naked, but there was the best robe in his father's house. The father said, bring the best robe. Put it on him. He came back with that sandal, and the father brought sandals. He came back with broken relationship. The father had a ring to re-establish a relationship. And that's exactly what God is waiting to do to you. If you only rise and come back to him in your backsliding, if you only come back to your senses and ask yourself, what have I benefited by abandoning God? Rise, come back to your father. There is the best robe waiting for you. There is the ring waiting for you. There's the sandal waiting for you. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. You may be physically alive, but dead. When your relationship with God has died, you have died. Bring the fattened calf. The father has been fattening a calf, waiting for the day he will come, and on this day there was celebration. He said, let's have a feast. God is waiting for you to come back. There will be celebration, for the Bible says there is joy in heaven when one sinner repents. Come back to him. Come back to the Lord. Abandon your backsliding. Abandon your sinful way. Rise. Come back to your senses. Come back to your father. Your father will not deny you. He's waiting for you with the best robe. He's waiting for you with the ring of a relationship. He's waiting for you with the sandal. He's waiting for a feast. Come back. Your father wants that relationship again with you. Get restored back to what you were. Enter into that relationship again with the father, and begin to have this heart-to-heart encounter with him. Jesus Christ is waiting for you. Do so now. Rise and come back to him, and you will never regret. You become totally different. You will forget about the wasted opportunities. He is ready to give you another chance. Come back to the Father. Come back now.